Okay, y'all, so I am showing you how to make slow cooker chicken, broccoli, and rice casserole. If you want to do this recipe yourself, this recipe is uploaded onto Moodle. The reason that we're doing this lesson is because I want to model for you what a college dorm easy and healthy recipe would be like. So as you can see, I've already brought out all of my ingredients. I've pre-measured things like the broth and the rice. And I pre-cut like the chicken bag because you don't need to see me cut that and get chicken juice everywhere. So that's already ready to go. So you can see the full list of ingredients. I brought out everything, but for this first step of the recipe, I'm only doing part of the recipe with part of the ingredients. So the first thing is to place onion, rice, mustard, garlic powder, thyme, salt, and pepper in the bottom of the slow cooker. So I'm going to do that here. So I have pre-chopped my onion. That goes in. Fun fact about onions, if you are doing a recipe for this project and you need to cut something like an onion, know thyself. Make sure that you use an onion or a knife that is sharp so that when you're cutting the onion and not your fingers, because if it's dull, it'll slip around on the top. If you don't trust your knife skills, maybe have somebody who is trusted in your life cut the onion for you, because, you know, learning assessment for this assignment is not to bleed and go to the emergency room. So here's my onion. I was very smart about cutting it with a sharp knife. Next is the brown rice, which is 1 cup. It's already pre-measured. It is not cooked rice, it is raw rice. Now I'm going to put in my 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. That looks gross, but here we go. Garlic powder is 1 teaspoon. I'm using garlic salt because we had it on hand already. Garlic salt and garlic powder are close enough where that's not a problem. So I'm going to pour it in here. Also, fun fact as far as mess goes, because you know, you're going to be an adult and you are responsible for cleaning up after yourself. Don't ask me, ask your roommate who wants you to clean up after yourself. When you're pouring out things like spices, pour it over the thing. Be very careful, because the downside of pouring it over the thing you're putting it in is if you overcompensate, and it'll just dump too much spice into your meal. So make sure you go slowly and carefully, but pour it out over the receptacle rather than over the countertop, and it cuts down on some of your cleanup. Next, we're putting in 1 teaspoon of thyme. Same thing. I'm going to put it over here and not over the counter. Salt and pepper only require 1/4 teaspoon, so I'm just going to shake them in a little bit because it's such a small amount. Okay, now I pour in my broth. So I'm going to pour that in. And then it says, stir until well combined. You remember that Dijon mustard looked kind of gross. So I'm going to stir in here. Also, fun fact for cleanup, there is no reason why you should have 40 spoons from stirring up everything. So I'm just using the same tablespoon that I used when I put the Dijon mustard in there. And then add chicken. So here's our chicken. I already cut the package open. I'm going to lift over the slow cooker and dump the chicken in. Now, my hands are clean, so I can move the chicken in the broth. Here we go. I have just touched raw chicken, which means the first thing I do is I wash my hands. The reason this is important is because of food poisoning, foodborne illness. For those of you who have taken your food handler's card, who work in food service, and I know there are several of you, you know that if you touch something like raw meat, then you must immediately wash your hands because that bacteria will grow. This is also true for any meat that you have sitting out. Uncooked meat shouldn't sit out any longer than like an hour. Cooked meat shouldn't sit out any longer than 2 hours. The idea is that the more that the temperature drops or rises, so like refrigerated meat, the temperature will rise sitting out, or cooked meat, the temperature will drop sitting out. Anytime it reaches that middle area, that's the danger zone. And so that warm, that room temperature warmth bacteria generates lots of foodborne illness, which you get food poisoning from. So first thing I'm going to do is wash my hands, right? I'm going to wash my hands. You're supposed to sing the happy birthday song, which I'm not going to do. We don't need to sing the happy birthday song. But I am going to take plenty of time to wash my hands, because these are great habits that everybody should get into, particularly in this very germ-ridden season that we are in. And then dry my hands. Okay, so the recipe says the next thing we do is to sprinkle the chicken with more black pepper. Blah, 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 blah. And then put the lid on, and to make sure, in this recipe I'm cooking on low all day long, hypothetically while I'm in class. So I'm going to select low on my crock pot. This is important, particularly for this kind of crock pot. Make sure that the little light says low, because it would really suck if you put your raw chicken in a crock pot, forgot to turn it on. So one, you don't have dinner, and two, now you have to throw out this food, because once it's sit out and germinated enough bacteria for foodborne illness, you can't save it. It needs to get gone. So make sure that you turn your crock pot on, and we will come back and chat in a couple of hours when this chicken is over. All right. Hello again. So it's 6:30. I started it at noon, so it's been about 6.5 hours. What I like about the crock pot is that you can put everything in the crock pot. You can forget about it while you're at work or while you're at school or whatever. And it's kind of impossible to burn what's in the crock pot. It can dry out, or it can burn around the edges if it's in here for too long, but the food is fine. So I'm going to lift the lid so you can see it. So the chicken has been in here, and I haven't touched this in 6.5 hours. So you can see kind of how it looks. What you can't do from your computer is smell how good it smells. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm opening this bag of Trader Joe's broccoli, and I'm just going to put it on top. And so I'm gonna replace the lid and clamp it down. I'm not changing the heat at all. The idea is that this will be in here for an hour before I am ready to eat. So we'll see you in an hour.
What's that?
Hello all. So I have let the broccoli cook for an hour. I've taken the lid off, and you can see that the broccoli is pretty well cooked. In fact, I like my broccoli a little greener than that, but it's fine. So now the last couple of things that you need to do for the recipe are to add the Greek yogurt and the cheese. So I've already pre-measured it. You'll see I have a little bit more than what's originally called for in the recipe, only because I really just don't want to keep 1 spoonful of yogurt in my refrigerator. So I like it creamier anyway, so that's fine. I also have a pre-measured bowl of Parmesan cheese and a pre-measured bowl of mixed cheddar cheese. And then when you're ready, you just mix the whole thing in together. I should probably use a better spoon than this, but this is fine. And you mix it together. And the idea is that as you're mixing, you're breaking up that chicken. You can break it up as thick, as like big thick pieces as you want, or if you like thin shreddy pieces, and then you can break it into that. But the idea is you want it well mixed. And as you can see, as I'm stirring it up, you can see that the rice has cooked all day. So the rice is ready to go. That's what you really care about. And as I'm mixing it, the cheese is melting. So this is basically ready to eat. So this has been a super easy recipe, Crock pots are great because most college dorms will let you have a crock pot. Be sure to check the dorm list to see if it's included on the pack list. If it's not allowed in your dorm, sometimes it is allowed in like the dorm kitchen, and just make sure your name is on it so that it doesn't walk away. Even then, somebody might like smell your really good chicken crock pot and help themselves while you're in class, which would kind of suck, but well, you're the one who picked a dorm, so there's that. So after this is all mixed in, you can see this is pretty well mixed. The cheese is all melted. It's good to eat. So this is exactly the kind of video I expect you all to have made. Sorry, I'm going to lick my fingers. The kind of video I expect you to make for your own final project for this class. If you want to make something, then just present it in a video not that different from what I did for you making this recipe. Thank you.